quit my full-time teaching job. I didn't have any other job lined up when I walked out those doors. I gave them 2 weeks notice. My last day working was, that's it, no more paycheck, nothing. And I was living in Manhattan, right in New York City. And that kind of, I like to say, lit that fire under my butt to figure out what was next. And you know, this was in 2010. And to be really honest with you, I didn't really know in 2010 what the word entrepreneur actually really meant. I didn't even, that wasn't really part of my vocabulary, or it just wasn't even, wasn't there for me at all. But my dad had his own business, which he actually sold probably about 5, 6 years ago. He had started an auto body shop as a young guy, and he built that over the years. So I kind of think maybe I have that entrepreneurial spirit within me without maybe realizing it. And he was the one, after I quit my job, I started doing some independent contracting work where I was working one on one with students with various learning disabilities, kids that really needed extra support. And, just the regular classroom wasn't really cutting it for them and what they needed to be able to thrive. And as I started doing this independent contracting work with these students, once I quit my job, my dad on a random day said, well, why don't you start your own education business? And my response was, I don't know, maybe I should do that. And that's what I ended up doing. And so I started a business called Teacher on the Go. And what I did for several years was work with students, again, with learning disabilities, with some behavioral support needs as well. And I created I would say, a decently thriving business for those couple of years. But I have, like you mentioned, no MBA. I had no formal education in business. That just, I didn't have that. I just started doing what I thought intuitively would be a good step to take when it came to, say, marketing. I mean, I knew what marketing was. I had done some marketing things when I worked in the music industry. So I remember sitting at a Starbucks coffee shop that was near the apartment I lived at. And I had this little laptop. They probably don't even make it anymore. One of the hinges was sort of cracked on it. So this laptop was slanted, but I'd go to Starbucks with this laptop every day. And I had a BlackBerry then, and I'd go through this BlackBerry and I'd look at all the contacts I had, and I'd create a spreadsheet, and I would start reaching out to people, calling them. I guess I was texting then, emailing to say, hey, I'm providing these services. But that ended up getting me started with the business. And then after doing that for a couple of years, I had a realization that it was this kind of interesting thoughts that came to my mind, where it was, hey, I was able to quit my job. Hey, I was able to quit my job and stand on my own 2 feet without going back to another job. And I don't think a typical job, is actually a match for me. Now that I've done this for a couple of years, I don't want to have a regular job. And then I thought, and as I was going through this and talking to friends and meeting people, I realized, there's got to be other people like me out there who are working a job, whatever that job is, and they're not fulfilled, but they're not sure what to do, how to leave that job. Can they start a business? And so I wanted to help other people do basically what I had done. And then that put me on the trajectory of the 9 to 5, which is now almost 11 years old, believe it or not. So where I'm at now with the business is that I educate and coach. I like to refer to these type of people as conscious people. So I educate and coach conscious people who know that they're not meant for the 9 to 5, and they want to create successful self-employment. And these are people who create what I also like to refer to as unique service businesses. They see a service that they want to provide. They know there's a need for it. And so what I'm basically doing is I'm taking people from their job into the business. I also think it's worth sharing that I take a pretty unique approach when it comes to, if we give the term business coaching, I take what I call an inner and an outer approach, meaning the outer, the nuts and bolts, the practical stuff. So for example, the marketing pieces, right? That you have a business, you have to be marketing it and you have to understand how to market it. So I teach how to network is a really big one. I teach people how to actually be with other people and talk about what you do and key into if someone's interested, how to give a call to action. Um, that's a little bit of like the nuts and bolts. And then the inner is the deeper inner work inside of ourselves. So people come to me and they'll say, I know I want to do XYZ. I have this sense I'm meant to do it. I'm not super clear on the message, but I feel really strongly about it. And I have self-doubt and I have a lot of fear of failure or that I won't be able to make any money. And I second guess myself and I feel stuck like I'm in this hamster wheel. And so I equip people with tools, and they're working one-on-one with me to shift out of that. Because when I first started my business, I had a lot of self-doubt. I know we hear stories and those are stories that are fascinating to me where people were just confident right out the door. No matter what happened, they would just keep running with it. I'm not that type of person. And the people I work with are not those type of people either. They doubt themselves a lot and they feel fear. So I do the inner work there, and we do the outer work as well. So I went online and I was like, oh, here's a template for an agreement. And I looked at the agreement and I went, okay, this sounds good, but I'm going to edit this. And I'd hand the parent the agreement and I'd say, okay, we're going to do X amount of sessions. And I made the price up and I said, okay, this price feels good enough for me. I feel good charging it. I don't feel like I'm charging too little or too much. And I would present it to them and they'd go, okay. And they'd sign and we would do that. And then maybe back then for payment, I honestly can't remember. Maybe I did PayPal. Maybe some of them probably paid me cash. Maybe some of them wrote me checks. It probably ran the gamut. Um, and I never took the business though. Those because about 3 years I was doing it. I did not become an LLC. I think I was probably even commingling my finances then, to be honest with you. I didn't have my business checking account and my personal checking account. It's kind of winging it, Bob, to be honest with you. I also have my own business mentor that I didn't have back then. And I'm very grateful to have her in place for someone showing me these steps that I didn't really know that much about. And through networking, I have, my business is an LLC. I do have a checking account. I have a business credit card. I've, the agreement that I have in place for my clients was created for me working directly with a lawyer. So we have the proper language in place. We have all those pieces in place. I work with a company called Authorize.net where I process credit cards directly through a secure system. But I'm still, some of the ways I do things, it's in creating this business, I've had to ask myself, what feels best for me and that will work best for my client. So when I do start working with someone and they're ready to, we put down their first payment, they are actually giving their credit card. I'm processing it through Authorize.net. And so I've got all those pieces in place. I'd like to see where the business is at now, though, evolve with several team members, because I am still the sole person. I have worked with virtual assistants in the past, and I've also made hard decisions to let them go when I felt they weren't a match for where the business was going. And I've had to then take the reins back myself and be doing all the pieces. But in 5 years, I'd like to see 1 to 2 solid team members. And that's something. And obviously, I think with any business, you're always growing your clientele, for sure. And that's always in process through marketing, through getting the word out, doing things like this. I do a lot of public speaking. It's something that I love to do. I teach workshops. I've spoken for all sorts of organizations. So growing on that, because the more I build on my speaking, the more I can get the message out there that there is this type of support that I offer. And it's very individualized too. It's not cookie cutter, because when I connect with someone, I ask them a lot of really deep questions to find out where they really are and what are they really stuck with. And then I'm able to see there, okay, this is the plan that we're going to map out, you and I, and this is what you're going to be focusing on. So here it is. And this, you might be like, what? So my number one networking tips is don't worry about business cards. And what I mean by that is that if you have business cards, great. If you don't, that's great too. But why would I even say that? So when I've been networking for over a decade, and I've done an estimate that I have attended 400, well over 400 plus events. And I really enjoy networking. And the one thing that I notice people doing that I really want everyone to stop doing, because it doesn't support you or the other person, is just being in a networking event, talking to someone and just handing your card over. I had someone do that just on Friday. Sat down, didn't even have much of a conversation, just said, "Here's my card." And I go, "Okay, well, I don't know what to do with that. We don't have any rapport. There's no connection here." So when you're at an event, it's really more about talking to people, seeing if there's a connection, seeing if there is a reason after that event to then have a conversation with that person offline. If there is a reason, don't hand them your business card. Get their business card or their contact information. Because what I tell people is that if you're just handing your card to someone, it's very passive. It's really not intentional. It's not actually holding the reins. Like if you were on a horse is the visual I get. You're not really holding the reins to your business and kind of steering the horse. It's very passive. So at an engagement I had recently, I did a bit of a role play because we were in person. And I gave the person a script to read. That way we could act this out so everyone could actually see what I was trying to get across. And in this interaction, we're having a conversation where the person is telling me that they book speakers for speaking engagements. I go, "Oh, wow, I'm a speaker and I speak about blah, blah, blah." And the person goes, "Great, that's so exciting." And so in the role play, I handed them my card. I said, "Well, here's my card. Give me a call." If that were to happen, there's a 99% chance, I think there's a 99% chance, maybe 90% chance that person's not going to call me. That person's busy. If I want to speak for that person, I have to get their contact information. And so I then ask for that person's contact information. So my networking tip is don't worry about having business cards. Get that person's card or their contact information and you follow up. Do not expect others to follow up with you.